Hey folks, you may have just missed like one credit, but yeah, it was kind of the right length of video. I figured I would do some credits and post-game wrap up here. So I remember the credits for this game being fairly long. Not GTA 5 long. Jesus Christ, I wouldn't be able to do all those credits in one video. Lead Las Venturas. And Las Venturas, really, like, you could set an entire game at Las Venturas. It's a nice, big map. But, there wasn't that much story there. This is the GTA game I always thought of as the one that was, like, overblown and bloated. Like, there was so much world, there wasn't enough to do. There were huge chunks of the game, it felt like, where there was never story content going on. And that's not quite true, I guess. Like, as far as like entire regions go, you have missions in Los Santos, you have missions in a few missions in San Fierro. Really not that missions in Los Venturas. There's the suburban area north of Los Santos. All you really do there is the Catalina robbery missions. There's a few missions going on in that Angel Pines area. There's a whole area directly north of San Fierro. I think one of the girlfriends you can meet lives there. One of the ones we didn't bother to meet on screen, or even off screen in this playthrough. But the story never makes you go there. The area between San Fierro and Las Venturas, kind of deserty area, there's a little bit of stuff that goes on there for story missions. But yeah, it's this huge map. Like, if you were going to get stuck, like, this is the only game you can play for the rest of your life, this isn't the worst game you could pick, because there's so many places to explore, but there's not that much to do with a lot of it. It's a lot of empty space in this world. It's not as boring as the world of Dynasty Warriors 9, but it's got that same feeling of just like a huge empty world sometimes. As far as the story goes, with the acting and dialogue, they make it seem like it's a really big and tragic end when Big Smoke dies, but I have to say, Big Smoke is a really important part of the beginning of the game, and then he betrays you, and you go a really long time before you meet and fight Smoke at the end. And just, you know, 20/20 hindsight to somebody who's never written a video game before, you have a long time to get over any personal anger you felt about Big Smoke's betrayal before you actually face him. Because while they do a good job of setting it up, it's a video game. It's like, Big Smoke didn't actually try to kill my brother and betray my family. I felt a certain connection with Smoke because I enjoyed the part of the game where we played... Oh, Susie. Oh, never mind. Susie is a voice actor. It's like I didn't remember there being a member of Wujima's inner circle with a name who was female. What was I getting at? Yeah, Smoke. Smoke's betraying you actually kind of stung when I played this game the first time and didn't know it was coming. But in that, like, video game sort of way. Like, I didn't really take it personally the way that CJ would carry it with him for weeks and months and years if that's what it took to get back. But I was playing a video game, and with dozens of hours of gameplay before you get a chance to get revenge on Smoke, you've got lots of time. That's an interesting shot. Very artsy. You've got lots of time to get over it. And the game doesn't do a very good job of reminding you. You have that stretch of game before you take out the Loco Cartel, or the Loco Syndicate, where Caesar's calling you on on the phone, telling you about your opportunities to mess with Big Smoke's operations, which is kind of nice. I'm glad they did something like that. But after you take out the Loco Syndicate, you've got a decent chunk of game. All these missions you're doing for, like, Mike Torino, the missions you're doing with the Mafia. In a sense, you're following CJ's character path, because CJ starts to kind of lose track of doing anything about... I can't blame CJ. There is no, like... The way Sweet gets out of prison is just this, like, crazy God in the Machine nonsense with Mike Torino. I don't blame the writers for that, because like how would Smoke get or Sweet get out of prison and be okay? But at the same time, it's like that really, even if it's CJ's actions that got Smoke out of prison, or Sweet out of prison, he didn't really know at the time this is where it was all going. All he thought was that he was protecting Sweet from getting murdered in prison. So CJ, as far as like, hey, that's Candy Sucks, isn't it? Yeah. CJ, it's kind of ashamed of myself for remembering the name of the character. CJ kind of, sort of, as far as like what he should be doing, if you want him to be like this, I don't know what you would call it. He's like, oh, has he got filial piety, I guess is the joke I want to make. But like, what should CJ be doing? He should be working to take out Big Smoke, right? He should be working to find a way to get back into Los Santos and take out Big Smoke. Now let's see who this call's from.
Hey, what's up? Hello?
Yes, Claude! Faster, harder, deeper! Oh, Jess! Jess! Jess!
Catalina, you sick. Get help.
And you, Carl, you're jealous!
That is amusing. Alright.
How you spit on it? That barber did a good job, CJ. I appreciate that. I like yours and all.
So all of the story characters are in here, but we'll never see any of them again. So Mad Dog and your sister and Caesar, like all those folks, they are in there. Was Caesar in the ending scene? He must have been. They wouldn't have left out Caesar. Yeah, credits are not quite as long as I thought they would be. Alright, well, I guess I'll just play around a bit and wander and think about the game. When did I take that ammo for that gun? I may have done it by mistake. Wow, that's not the gun that we want. Oh, well. You get 100% completion, which we don't have. Then there is a Rhino tank parked right underneath this bridge outside of Grove Street, which is kind of fun. But we don't have... I've never achieved that in this game. We do have a Rhino waiting for us back in the...
Fat stacks only, dog. Hey, get out of here.
Like, a big part of the story is about getting rid of you drug dealers. I cannot believe...
Real calm.
We just got done taking out Big Smoke. Whatever. Alright. I tried to respond positively. I was curious if CJ could actually buy drugs, but no. I guess telling him to get out of here was the positive response because it didn't involve us actually trying to kill him. Alright, so the riots are over. City has returned to normal, which means that a car will always be parking here if you just come over here. And this guy doesn't care that we stole his car, because once he leaves it voluntarily, he no longer treats it as his car. If you jacked the car while he was in it, he might potentially attempt to steal it back. But as long as you're just, you know, he doesn't care. Let's head up here and just save. We'll see how much time we have left in the video by the time we get there. Let's just shut off the radio and let's just talk, you and me, general viewer. Let's have a moment to share our feelings. Yeah, so I'm kind of talking in circles here, but what I'm trying to get at is like, okay, Smoke. In retrospect, the storyline with Smoke betraying you, there's a bunch of films, I guess from like the 90s. New Jack City and the like. There's a whole genre of like films about... I never saw any of them. And it's weird, because I went to film school, but there's like... It's a genre of films I never checked out. I obviously wasn't the target audience for them, but... I got the general impression from hearing about them without really watching any of them. They were kind of like crime melodramas in the manner of like a Scarface or Godfather. about, urban gangsters. I think there probably were themes of like guys who betrayed their friends and lost track of what it was all about and went overboard, and they thought they'd made it to the top, but they got themselves killed. And I think that was like a theme of a bunch of these movies. And I have mentioned it at other points in this game. CJ is a criminal, and is a violent criminal. But there's lots of video games where you play as violent criminals. And sometimes they just like throw morality to the wind and just joke around and don't take themselves too seriously. But the games that are taking themselves seriously and trying to tell a story and trying to have you care about the protagonist, this is like, actually, I say games like there's tons of them. This is probably one of the first ones I remember playing. There's a fairly simple but effective technique you do in stories that are glorifying criminals, which is to make there be even worse criminals than the criminals that are the main characters. And usually the criminals who are even worse are ones who are selling really dangerous and just nasty, bad drugs. And the criminals, like in The Godfather, the Corleones didn't want, at least in the white communities, because they, to their credit, they acknowledged that the Corleones weren't really all that worried about the black communities. But in the white communities, they didn't want drugs getting peddled. They thought that stuff was bad. They didn't want it in the community. And this game has the thing where, the gangsters that we like and we're rooting for and kind of identifying with are not not drug dealers. The ones that we fighting against are drug dealers. But then, where was I going with all this? Yeah, Smoke turns on you and turns into a drug dealer, and they keep treating the dialogue like there's little tricks of like the way the lines are delivered. Not music cues in this one so much, but the way the lines are delivered. They treat it like it's being really dramatic and deep, but there's really not ever a good explanation of why Sweet betrays you. And yeah, they give you a really long time to forget about it, and like let any personal stake the audience, the gamer, has in seeing a dialogue confrontation between CJ and Smoke and all this stuff settled. They don't do enough, in my mind, during that kind of final chapter to re-up that. Like, they could pause that. They could backburner that for a while. But then they got to heat it back up before the end. And it's kind of like Smoke doesn't get mentioned that much. He does get mentioned. I'm not going to say he never gets mentioned. But they go a really long time with Smoke not being a major character. And suddenly it's like, oh yeah, and Smoke. We're going to go after Smoke. Like, it doesn't feel like as big of a deal as it should, at the end. And then Tenpenny's end really is just like out of nowhere. I have a problem with the Rockstar games and the writing, but sometimes I think what's really wrong is it's just things that can't be helped in a video game.
Bye, guys.
But there is a tendency. It's like they're trying to like elevate video game writing to being at the level of like any other fictional writing. But there's lots of little things that make me think, wow, they're really full of themselves and like convinced this is epic storytelling. But there's a lot of really obvious stuff that's wrong with it, and like a big part of it is at the end, let's set up an epic showdown with Smoke, but the game engine doesn't really lend itself to anything like a boss fight. And then we don't really have a satisfying conclusion for all the things that Smoke has done to us. And even less so Tenpenny, who's just like, his crimes have finally caught up to him in a way that happened off screen that we're not going to explain. And then he dies in a car accident while we're chasing him? I don't know. I will say that at the end of this game, they do a better job of making it feel like CJ's got a lot of cool shit going on, and you know, he could really have some cool stuff ahead of him. They do that with Tommy Vercetti at the end of Vice City a bit. Not even a bit. At the end of the city, he's like the ruler of the town. At the end of the city. At the end of the game, he basically runs the city's criminal world, and like things can only look up for Tommy. Claude doesn't really have much of an ending, but GTA 3 was... It seemed like it was more of a parody of crime drama stories than an attempt to actually be one sometimes. But yeah, in this game... But now that I think about it, all of the games are like that, with the noticeable exception of Grand Theft Auto 4. I don't want to spoil Grand Theft Auto 4, because at some point, I've enjoyed these GTA games enough that I think I probably will play GTA 4 and 5 at some point on the channel. Depends on whether how long I keep the channel. Like, those are really long games. And if I take a long time before I get to either of them, I don't know that I'll be doing this hobby forever. But GTA 4 is the major exception. But yeah, all of these games are pretty chirpy and happy at the end, and this one's not an exception. I'm kind of all over the map. I didn't really sit down and make notes about what I wanted to say. But we're in a world now with CJ. If you leave everything that you don't need to do to finish the story aside and finish the GTA 3 path as fast as you can, which is essentially what I did in my Let's Play. You do a couple of missions for that crooked cop guy, which are kind of fun, and you end up getting a bulletproof rhino. Not a rhino, sorry. You get a bulletproof Humvee, whatever they call the Humvees in that game. Has a special reward. That's kind of fun. You do the Donald Love missions, which are kind of... They're weird. It feels like it's moving towards something, and it just kind of drops off. And then you can do the missions for the different... The telephone missions for the different gangs. King Courtney and D.I., so the Red Jacks, and El Burro of the Diablos, or whatever his name is. You can do all that stuff, but there's no sense that, like, Claude has this really great future in front of him. Everybody who's been allied with him is dead, except for the annoying chick who's kind of quasi his love interest, and then he kills her in the ending credits, it seems like. So that game is just like kind of making a joke out of it. But no, it's not like you're going to go off and like climb the ranks of the Yakuza. The Yakuzas are all dead. The Colombians hate you. Vice City, if you leave everything to do at the until the end, you can't really do that. You have to do a certain number of asset missions to get the final end game to unlock. But you've got the Phil Cassidy missions, which are basically you hanging out with this friend that you made along the way doing these heists. You could do the heist missions at the end, where like you just are planning a bank robbery caper. That's fun. It's like Tommy Vercetti's bored, so he decides to do a bank heist. And any asset missions you didn't do, but basically you rule the city. And that's a fun game to imagine yourself kind of, you know, I'm going to live in the Vice City world. But this game, I think, even more. If you do the minimum, like you go through the required story missions, you've got stuff that kind of doesn't count left at the end. Like, oh, you can do street races. You can do trucking missions and train missions. But the entire mission chain about getting this car dealership asset is still here. It's all written in such a way that it could be CJ and Caesar and Kendall setting this up without Sweet, but they never mention Sweet being in jail. It's all set up so you can do it later. Getting this business going in San Fierro, starting a new life in San Fierro. It's kind of clever because it's done in such a way that you could do it when you first get to San Fierro. In which case it plays into the sense that you're not really concentrating on trying to help Sweet or get revenge on Smoke. You're setting up a new life in San Fierro, but like Kendall really seems to think you should be doing that, and she's got kind of a point. And then the other mission chains you could do is all the stuff you're doing with Woozy. So I'm just off on these tangents now, but it's because I don't want to get too much going before we call it a video, I guess. Because it's the end of the session and we just won the main story. So it doesn't make sense to do too much. Maybe by the next time I play, because I've got to sit down and do the casino missions, and after that I really don't know how much I want to do. because you can see on the main world map, we've got, I believe there's 6 girlfriends. We've met 1, 2, 3 of them. We're dating 3 of them. We met the woman who hangs out at the driving school, but we haven't dated her. And somewhere there is a cop, and maybe there's only 5 girlfriends. Who am I not remembering? But yeah, I don't know if there's any point. You can look them up if you want. Like, do you guys remember anything about Katie? And if you do, is it based on playing the game yourself years ago, or is it based on me showing her on screen like 3 times? You know? I don't know how much sense there is to me messing with that on screen. We'll definitely do the casino missions, and I think that's it. I think I might be kind of done. There are delivery missions you can do in Los Venturas. And again, like, I had this really slow, leisurely playthrough I was doing where I wasn't concentrating. I was always keeping a save file so that I could use it for a Let's Play later. But when I was just playing through the game myself and was like, all right, get whiskey and Coke in my hand and play on a Saturday, I was doing a lot of stuff that I wouldn't bother to do in the Let's Play because I just don't think it would be interesting to see. Los Venturas in particular, it seems like this huge city where nothing happened in the story. How many missions did we have? The missions involving the Mafia were all set here, but like, how many casinos are there that never popped up? And so, like, we've got these huge, goofy-looking places like the Clown's Pocket, Old Ventura Strip. We never had to do anything there. It's strange. Anyway, let's do a Quarry mission and see what they are about, because I don't even remember, and I'm wondering if it's worth doing. Because, honestly, the 2 mission types that we've never done at all are the Quarry missions and the Trucker missions. And the train missions, I don't even count. There are train missions. It just involves you driving the train around. I can't describe it because everything I'm saying about it makes it sound more interesting than it is. But let's do a Quarry mission, see what this is, because I honestly don't remember. Use a bulldozer to clear the paths before the next delivery arrives. Run. The camera is not working with me. I'm trying to... I can't figure out where I'm supposed to be going because I can't really control the camera like I feel like I should. But I feel like if you knew the layout of the quarry really well, these missions would be fairly easy. I think there's multiple levels of missions where you do this, similar to the delivery missions. And if you get them all, then this becomes an asset that gives you money. Trying to go down a level. I knocked that over, but I didn't get credit, so I think I knocked it over the wrong way. And I feel like if I tried to just drive off of one of these cliffs, I will flip the thing or blow it up and automatically lose the mission, I'm assuming. Or maybe not. Anyway, this is kind of an interesting mini game. But I also kind of feel like now we've seen what it is, and there's not that much. You get a series of these that are more and more difficult. I Oh, for fuck's sake. Is it rain? Yeah, it's raining. I was like, is it always this hard, or should I not have attempted this during the rain, or does it always rain triggers as soon as you attempt this mission because it's part of the 5 rocks cleared, 2 to go? Okay, I guess driving up close... Yeah, I'm not going to make it, am I? But driving up close to this... Maybe it's really, really, really hard to flip this thing and... Oh, they're playing the "You Are About to Game Over" music. Yeah, see, those are up high. I should... There's some, not a trick exactly, but you need to know the layout of the place, and then you can figure out how to efficiently get around. But I'll tell you what, I don't think I'm going to bother to do any more of this. I think I'm going to finish the casino heist missions and then call it. The only other thing I could think of to do... Yeah, so if you do a series of those, you're not going to get dialogue. I don't know if you do just one or if there's like 2 or 3. I can't imagine there's more than 4. But yeah, you're doing that mission to different levels of difficulty, and when you finish, you're going to get the music, and it's going to tell you that you have unlocked the quarry as an asset, and there will be a cash pickup here. I've never done it before on the old hardware, and I honestly don't think I'm doing it now. If you really, really, really want to see me do it, let me know. Because it seems like, yeah, I could play around with it and learn the layout and get into it, and it might even be fun, but it seems a bit eh. And that being said, for those of you watching these as they go up, that's going to wrap up a set of videos for this week. And when we come back next week, I would imagine we will be ending the series with the Las Venturas Caper. Maybe I'll do the trucking missions or just try them out similar to this. I'll just do it once and either win or not win. But that one, there's like 4 different levels of it as well. I don't think I'll bother to do all 4 levels. I think I'll just mess around with it until I feel like I've showcased it enough and be done. And sometime fairly soon we'll be done with this series. And maybe over the course of the week I'll think of some things to say about the game, because I kind of went off on a very meandering path there. But I know this video opened with the credits. This is where I should be summing up my thoughts on the game. But all I can really say is I've been, making observations about the game as we go here and there. Interesting that it took as long as it did to get a main game, because I had to look this. I was trying to look this up. I couldn't easily come to the answer. Was this the first major release video game with a black protagonist? And I was trying to find, I know I'd looked it up online years ago, and somebody in a message board thread was saying it was, and somebody else posted some picture of some obscure console game nobody remembered that had something to do with time travel, with a kind of Wesley Snipes as Blade-looking protagonist. But yeah, this feels like this is the first really major video game hit, not counting sports games, that was marketed around like Mike Tyson or whoever the top guy in the NBA or the NFL might be one year. I'm not saying that that's always a black guy. I'm just saying that was a case where a black guy might be the guy on the cover of the box, cover art. Yeah, but this is the first like fictional story-based video game where the main character is a black guy, and it was potentially troubling that he was a gangbanger. CJ seems like more than a gangbanger. At the same time, it is a little funny that his whole story was like he wasn't looking after his family. He wasn't taking care of the hood like his brother wanted. But at the same, like, you could present it as being positive that he goes out and does all this other stuff, like gets involved with the casino. In a GTA universe where being a criminal is not intrinsically bad, that is branching out and improving yourself. Getting this business going with the cars, even though it involves stealing cars to sell, is improving yourself. But there is this weird, in this whole rap, he's working with Big Dog or Mad Dog or whatever his name is. That seems like it could be. But it leaves things in a weird place between CJ and Sweet, because at the end CJ's like, no, or Sweet's just like, no man, don't shoot Tenpenny, it's over. Say he died in a traffic accident, nobody's got to take the blame, and they just head back. And it's like, what has changed for Sweet? I don't know. There's so many interesting things going on in the game that don't get resolved. I still think it's got a better overall story than GTA 5 because GTA 5 really fucks itself over by trying to give you like a choice at the end, which really messes up the story. They had to write it in a way that like the Lamont is his name Lamont. Lamont's his friend. I I refuse to remember the name of the. He's actually the opening protagonist. Well, no, I think you play as Michael in a flashback first. But the GTA protagonist whose name I refuse to remember is the only one who's guaranteed to live at the end of 5 because there's this whole thing going on where the story can see him betray the other protagonists. It's weird. It really messes up the game at the end as far as being able to have a coherent narrative moving towards an actual, point and resolution of any kind. But this game, it has all these threads that seem to be going somewhere interesting, and at the end, it just kind of runs out of steam and stops. It's a little odd. And I'm saying all these things that sound so critical, but again, I'm so much harder on Rockstar than any other studio because like I expect a lot from them. And one of the reasons I expect a lot from them is that you plop down like 50 or 60 bucks to buy this brand new. As far as a game that would keep you entertained for months and months and months of time, this is probably one of the best games ever. Which is why the flaws that it has are interesting to talk about. It's like people will make fun of plot inconsistencies in Star Wars for many years after the movie's released because they don't remember the other movies that were released in that year, if that analogy makes any sense. Anyway, I need to call it a video. I need to get to bed. When I catch you guys next week, we'll wind this thing down. Bye, guys.